The trend of adapting Korean projects into anime continues to rise. In recent years, we have seen adaptations like God of a High School, The Returner's Magic Should Be Special, and Tower of God. Notably, the webtoon Lookism was adapted not by Japanese studios, but by the Korean studio Mir, thanks to Netflix financial support. Studio Mir also has anime projects like Witcher, The Nightmare of the Wolf, and Daughter of Dragon's Blood for Netflix. However, high-quality Korean anime still relies on funding from the giants like Netflix, while Japan continues to produce anime based on manhwa and webtoons. And today, we have a special story, Crime and Tragedy, of one of the world's most popular webtoons, Sololeveling, by A1 Pictures, which recently began its second season. So hello dear viewers, I'm here to share projects that deserve your attention. And today, we're discussing Sololeveling, which started as a web novel by Chugong, sorry if I'm telling it wrong, and later became a hit web manhva. The project was brought to life by a Korean art studio REDICE, known for illustrating many webtoons including the remarkable Omniscient Reader, which also has an anime announce. But today, let's focus on the Sololeveling. The story revolves around a regular Korean guy from modern-day Seoul named Jin-Woo, who knows as Weakest Hunter. The reason for this nickname lies in fact that in this world something called gates appears. Those are like pocket dimensions or subspaces filled with monsters. Basically, they're like game-style generated dungeons. If you manage to defeat all the monsters and the dungeon boss, you can earn resources, loot and artifacts. But if the gates aren't closed within a set time, all the monsters can escape into a real world and attack ordinary people. At the same time, along with the gates, some people began awakening special abilities. Some became stronger and tougher than normal humans. Others learned how to throw fireballs or obtain healing powers. Those awakened individuals became hunters, and they were tasked with dealing with dungeons that keep appearing. In a short moment, the world was changed forever. And what I really love that how people immediately turned this disaster into a business. Hunters Guild quickly became the most powerful organization globally, and countries started waging actual diplomatic and financial wars over high-ranking hunters. Major guilds immediately monopolized access to the gates, and ordinary hunters cannot get close to the gates that have already been claimed. Oh yeah, can you already smell the MMO vibes? Selling raid spots or loot for real money and all that fun stuff? It's an interesting contrast to the usual fantasy trope, where the hero can freely go into the dungeon. Here, the gates are corporate business, complete with all shady dealings and endless bureaucracy. Of course, not all hunters are equally strong. They are ranked by a commission, and the strength and reputation of the Hunter Guild depends on how many high-ranking hunters they have. But the S rank is so rare, it's like pulling multiple 5-star characters from a gacha game on your first try. It's nearly impossible! Because of this, a country's power and status no longer depends on an army, but on the number of high-ranking hunters it has. And countries will do whatever it takes, fair or foul, to recruit those hunters, just like football clubs compete for top players. And so we return to our protagonist, known as the Weakest Hunter. He's only slightly stronger than an ordinary person, which is why he joined groups exploring the lowest ranked dungeon. He does this to pay for his sister's education and his mother's hospital bills. Our hero is very weak in combat. Even in the lowest level dungeon, he may have died long ago, but he only managed to survive because other hunters protect and heal him. Yes, this is a story about his journey, from the very bottom to the top. A story about how after one terrifying incident, he unexpectedly gained a special ability to level up and grow stronger, bypassing the existing ranking system for the hunters. That's how he started leveling up on his own. Or we can say, he's only one who can level up. Well, at first, when I started reading this webtoon, it didn't seem like a usual Mary Sue story. where the protagonists succeed in everything effortlessly. The authors showed how hard it was for the hero to climb to the top. Yes, he progressed quickly, but he worked very hard to achieve it. And it's a shame that this pace didn't last through the middle of the story, where it's turned into a typical tale of the perfect guy who can do everything, from being an invincible fighter to summoning an army of shadows. At that point, there were no more challenges or obstacles for him. I must say that writers try to give the hero depth and inner struggle, like whether I am a trembling creature or whether I have a right. How big the gap between ordinary people and hunters. Thus becoming stronger means he'll drift further away from his sister and mother. What's the system, and why is the protagonist now its slave? It's fascinating to follow how he tries to answer those questions while continuing his journey. But again, in the second half of the story, the authors get so lost in the complex ideas that readers end up missing the earlier chapters, which were full of adventures, challenges, and plot intrigue. Early on, the protagonist's journey is well structured, following all the classic elements of the adventure story. Each new arc and dungeon introduced another piece of the world mythology and presents a fresh challenge for the hero, putting him in a situation he's never faced before. The story also makes an effort to build a believable world, also the highlighting the behind-the-scenes power struggles between hunters' guilds in Korea and other countries, as they compete to recruit high-ranking hunters. It's a real shame that authors doesn't dive deep into this, leaving it all on the surface. Unfortunately, the weaker aspect of the story really stand out when it comes to supporting characters. Even though they are based on vivid archetypes, they don't get any real development and end up as blurry figures on the sideline of the protagonist's story. Some are even dropped from the story completely, like, well, why do we even need them here? Expect for you, Burr. You are just a gem, a bundle of cuteness, and probably source of the best jokes in the whole story. Watching you enjoy romantic dramas is more entertaining than the most of the secondary characters. Now let's speak about the real strength of this project, and it's, without a doubt, the visuals. Sure, the digital art of Sololeveling can compete with the titans of the manga, like Kentaro Miura and his Berserk, Yusuke Murata and his One Punch Man, Katsuhiro Otomo and his Akira, or Boichi and his Sunken Rock, who sometimes spend months on a single chapter. But for a weekly full-colored webtoon, the work of REDICE Studio is just amazing. The detailed artwork, dramatic shots, cool angles, dynamic battles, and sometimes truly epic scenes of destruction or large-scale fights. It's all so well done. Every time the protagonist summons his shadow army, it gives readers chills. It might not be deep or intellectual, but it hits all the right instincts and gives you a rush of endorphins. And honestly, the webtoon's visual make it impossible to look away. Without this level of artwork, it's unlikely the series would have become one of the most popular webtoons out there. Speaking of webtoons, someone recently asked me about the difference between manhwa and webtoon, so this is a good time to clear that up for everyone who confused. Manhwa refers to Korean comics, just like manga referred to Japanese comics. Manhwa used to be published in magazines, and their style often looked a lot like manga, black and white comics. For example, The Breaker or Veritas. But one time, digital comics became more popular. Those are colorful, scrollable comics designed for mobile phones, and in Korea they were called webtoons. So technically, they are still manhwa, since they are Korean comics. By the way, the Chinese equivalent is called manhva, and like Korean comics, most of them have also gone fully digital and are making tons of money. So, Sololeveling can be called both a webtoon and a manhwa, and both terms are correct. So, webtoon was a success, and in 2020, the Kakao Page platform announced that the combined sales of a Sololeveling web novel and manhwa surpassed $30 million. Meanwhile, the total views of the manhwa on the website reached an impressive 430 millions, and considering that this data only came from the Asian region, the global sales might be much higher. This makes Sololeveling one of the most popular webtoon in history. So it's no surprise then that such a brand has started expanding into other media. Naturally, this includes a ton of merch, but there is also a mobile action RPG game, Sololeveling REDICE, created by the Korean studio Netmarble. The webtoon's success also led to the need for a sequel. This new story focuses on the main character's son, and it's called Sololeveling Ragnarok.
Come, boy. Boy. Wait for me, boy!
In 2024, the first season of the anime came out. It was produced by A1 Pictures, a well-established studio with plenty of experience. They've worked on projects like romantic comedy Kaguya-sama Love's War, the dramatic mecha action series 86, and Sword Art Online Alicization. Unfortunately for me personally, this choice feels underwhelming. A studio that could have nailed Sololeveling's biggest strength, its visuals, was really needed. But sadly, Ufotable is already busy with Demon Slayer and working on the Genshin Impact anime, while handling massive budgets from the Chinese investors, so they don't need to take on yet another project. As for MAPPA, they have taken so many projects that even their animators are starting to rebel because they can't keep up. Or maybe MAPPA also decided to steer clear of the Korean manhvas after The God of High School. Trigger, on the other hand, is riding high after the success of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I wonder if they were either offered the contract, or did Hiroyuki Imaishi shows up on a meeting with a Korean tap dancing on the table, staring straight into the camera, and suggesting they add more Fury Girls with big guns to the plot. Who knows? So here how it goes. The first season came out in January 2024, showing the hero's rise and how he got his powers. The second season only just started, releasing in January 2025. A1 Pictures did a decent job, but for me personally, it's not the kind of art and animation that people will look back on years later. The webtoon Sololeveling was a hit. Readers and platform management alike showered it with praise. It officially ended in December 2021, but surprisingly, its conclusion received mixed reviews from the fans. On one hand, those who familiar with original novel complained that the story has been heavily shortened and simplified. On the other hand, everyone agreed on one thing: the art was outstanding. While the plot didn't offer anything groundbreaking, the polished and stylish visuals made tuning in every week a pleasure. But as the story approached its final, ongoing readers noticed more frequent delays in new chapter releases. Sometimes updates were postponed for a week, sometimes 2, and even for a month. The reason? The health of the lead artist. About 6 months after the webtoon's official conclusion, in July 2022, the lead artist of Sololeveling, the head of REDICE Studio, Sang-Rak Jung, also known by his pen name Dubu, tragically passed away from a brain hemorrhage. One of the lead factors noted was a severe decline of his health due to the constant overwork. He was only 37 years old. All that remains of this young and talented artist is a post on Twitter X by the studio he dedicated his life to. I could end this story on a lofty note. I could say once again that the creators achieve immortality through the work. But the reality is this: yet another talented individual has lost their life at the drawing table. Yes, he gave everything to his work and created visually stunning art, but sadly, he will never create anything again. The countless projects he could have contributed to will now take a different path, and we will never see his vision brought to life in those stories and illustrations. So I just want to wish all creators good health once more. As readers, we often demand next chapter or continuation right now, because we are impatient, filled with emotions, and eager to find what happens next. But authors, manga artists, illustrators, who pour every ounce of their energy into meeting those expectations and demands without considering the consequences, only bring the inevitable closer. Sadly, we have lost dozens of great creators and will likely lose many more. There is nothing we can do about it. All we can do is wish them health and strength on their creative journey. And with that, let's bring this reflection to a close. So is Solo Leveling webtoon worth your time? It's simple. If you are looking for a story about ultimate protagonist who beats everyone with no trouble, is so cool and powerful that enemies tremble just from his gaze, and all of these games with stunning detailed visuals, then absolutely yes. This is a stylish, action-packed fantasy adventure. But if you want a story with a complex narrative, dialogues, meaningful characters, relationships, and charismatic villains, you won't find much of that here. In that case, it's better to look elsewhere. With this, you might still want to check out the webtoon. It's a project created with the passion and dedication of truly talented person. And in the end, you can decide it for yourself if it was worth for. Thanks for today, and see you next time.